Fear is not the enemy. It is the invitation. It is one of the most primal, universal emotions we carry as human beings. And yet, so many of us treat it like a sign to stop, a wall to avoid, a weight that must be pushed away. But what if fear wasn't a barrier, but a compass? Everyone feels fear. The dreamer, the leader, the healer, the artist, the parent, the student. It's not a matter of if you feel fear. It's a matter of what you do with it when it shows up. Some fears are easy to spot. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of being judged for standing out, or worse, falling short. These fears whisper familiar lies. You're not ready. You'll embarrass yourself. What will they think? And perhaps the most dangerous lie of all, you're not enough. But fear isn't always a red light. Sometimes it's a green light dressed in disguise. Sometimes the thing we fear most is the very thing our soul came here to do. You see, fear often appears when we are on the edge of expansion. It shows up not because we're weak, but because we're about to grow. Because stepping into something new requires us to shed the skin of who we were. Fear is often a sign that you're touching something sacred, that you're stepping into a story bigger than your past, that you're awakening a version of yourself that you've only glimpsed in moments of courage. What if we stopped running from fear and started listening to it, not obeying it blindly, but learning from it consciously? Fear can shrink us or sharpen us. It can paralyze us or prepare us. Growth doesn't come from the absence of fear. It comes from the presence of courage in the face of it. The courage to try, to speak, to love, to begin. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're unsure, even if you fail. Because fear will never disappear completely, but your power to respond to it, that can grow infinitely. So the next time fear knocks, don't slam the door. Pause, breathe, listen. And ask yourself, what if this fear is pointing me toward who I'm meant to become? Fear can freeze us, but it can also focus us. When seen clearly, fear isn't just a warning, it's a wake-up call. Too often, we treat failure like a final sentence, as if a single misstep confirms our unworthiness. But what if failure isn't an ending? It's an education. The most powerful shift you can make is this. Don't fear failure. Fear not learning from it. Because failure is not the opposite of success. It is the soil it grows from. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once unsure. What separates them is not immunity from fear, but intimacy with it. They didn't run from failure. They studied it. They sat with it. They asked, what is this here to teach me? One of the most practical tools to turn fear into fuel is a practice called fear setting, a method made popular by author and entrepreneur Tim Ferriss. It's the act of writing down the exact fears you're holding, not just naming them vaguely, but clearly. What's the worst that could happen? How likely is it really? What steps could you take to prevent or minimize the damage? And if it did happen, how would you recover? What this does is simple but powerful. It moves fear from fog into form. And when fear has form, you can face it. You can take action. You can prepare. You can breathe again. Fear hates clarity. Because once fear is written down, named, understood, it begins to shrink. And in its place rises courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move anyway, to speak anyway, to try anyway. Fear can become fuel when we let it push us, not into panic, but into presence, not into hiding, but into action. It becomes the pressure that builds diamonds, the wind that lifts wings, the edge where transformation begins. You don't need to eliminate fear to live fully. You just need to recognize it for what it is, a sign that you're on the edge of expansion, a signal that your comfort zone is too small for the life you were meant to live. So let fear rise and let it move you forward, wiser, stronger, free. Confidence isn't something we wait for. It's something we build, step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice. Fear often feels overwhelming because we're staring at the entire staircase instead of just the next step. We look at the dream, the change, the challenge, and we freeze, believing we need to be ready for the whole journey before we can begin. But the truth is, you don't climb a mountain in one leap. You rise by inches, by showing up when it's hard, by doing the next small thing, by proving to yourself again and again, I can. The key is to break big goals into smaller, doable actions. Not because we're playing small, but because we're playing smart. Small steps reduce overwhelm. They silence the voice of fear long enough for you to move. And movement, no matter how modest, builds momentum. Start where you are, with what you have. Don't wait for the perfect timing or the perfect plan. Perfection is procrastination in disguise. The path reveals itself through doing. Every small win matters. Every tiny shift counts. When you honor even the smallest victories, you send a signal to your mind and spirit. I am capable. I am committed. I am becoming. Did you take a step forward today? Celebrate it. Did you speak up, show up, try something new? That matters. Confidence isn't built by waiting for fear to disappear. It's built by collecting evidence that you can move through it. Over time, those little victories add up. They stack into a new identity. One built not on theory, but experience. One that says, I've done hard things before. I can do them again. So let go of needing massive leaps. Take meaningful ones instead. Let action be your antidote to fear. Let movement be your medicine. And let every step you take be a seed, planting courage, watering self-belief, and growing a version of you you've only dreamed of until now. Fear thrives in the shadows of our thoughts. It feeds on self-doubt, on worst-case scenarios, on stories we tell ourselves without ever questioning if they're true. But perspective is the light. When we shift the way we see a moment, we shift the power it holds over us. A failure becomes feedback. A delay becomes divine timing. A challenge becomes a classroom. Our minds often default to protection. Don't try, don't speak, don't risk. It might go wrong. But what if the real danger isn't in failing? It's in never giving yourself the chance to fly. Reframing your inner dialogue is not wishful thinking. It's transformational thinking. It's saying, maybe this isn't happening to me. Maybe it's happening for me. It's choosing to see setbacks as sacred assignments, pain as a teacher, resistance as a signpost pointing toward what matters most. We're not born with fixed perspectives. We're taught them. And the beauty is, what we've learned we can unlearn. We can rewire fear into curiosity. We can turn shame into self-compassion. We can transform a narrative of "I can't" into a story of "I did." There are countless examples. Ordinary people who faced extraordinary fear and refused to back down. J.K. Rowling was rejected by a dozen publishers before she introduced the world to Harry Potter. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. But they kept going, not because they didn't fear failure, but because they reframed it. They chose to see rejection not as proof they weren't enough, but as evidence that something bigger was still unfolding. You can do the same. You are doing the same. Every time you reframe doubt as a chance to deepen belief, every time you turn a no into your next move forward, every time you rewrite an old story with a new truth, you reclaim your power. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the stretch, in the tension between fear and action, in the moments when you challenge the beliefs that once kept you small. And when you change your perspective, you don't just see differently, you live differently, you rise differently. You become the version of you who no longer waits for permission, because you've already said yes to yourself. There is a version of you the world has yet to meet, a version born not from perfection but from permission. The moment you give yourself the freedom to be seen, to try, to rise. Unleashing your potential isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you already are, beneath the layers of doubt, fear, and expectation. It's about peeling back the false narratives and standing, unapologetically, in your truth. That journey begins with self-belief. Not the kind built on external validation, but the quiet knowing that says, I may not have it all figured out. I may not feel ready, but I'm worthy of this dream anyway. True power lies in embracing your vulnerability, in choosing to show up, even when you're unsure, in speaking your heart, even when it trembles, because it's in those very moments of rawness that your light shines the brightest. You were not created to play small. You were not meant to shrink to fit into someone else's mold. Your gifts, your story, your voice, they are needed. And when you begin to honor them, even in small ways, you awaken possibility, not just in yourself, but in everyone watching you choose courage. Take time to identify what sets your soul on fire. What comes naturally to you? What do people thank you for? What do you lose track of time doing? These are not coincidences. They are clues. Your potential doesn't live in comparison. It lives in connection to your values, to your talents, to the whispers inside you that say, this matters, keep going. So take the leap. Not when you feel completely fearless, but when your purpose feels louder than your fear. Take the leap knowing you will learn, grow, and rise stronger with every step. Take the leap because regret only visits the roads we never walk. You don't need to be fearless to begin. You just need to be brave enough to try. Because the life you want, the impact you're here to make, won't arrive by accident. It will be unlocked the moment you stop waiting and start becoming. Your potential is not ahead of you. It is within you. Waiting. Ready. Now.